For 3 centuries, the Zendrathi Empire had maintained perfect order across the galaxy. Every ship was registered, every world mapped, every species categorized and controlled. The extinction of humanity had been their crowning achievement, the elimination of an unstable element that threatened their vision of cosmic harmony. Fleet Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge of the Imperial Command Station Eternal Vigil, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he watched the holographic display of nearby sectors. The border outpost had been quiet for decades, monitoring the empty void where human colonies once thrived. Now designated as forbidden space, it served as a grim reminder of Imperial might. The alert came without warning. A massive energy signature, unlike anything in Imperial records, materialized at the edge of sensor range. Unidentified vessel detected, announced the sensor officer, her crystalline form glowing with anxiety. No transponder signal. No registration beacon. Impossible, Vexthor hissed. Show me. The hologram shifted, revealing a massive warship unlike any he'd seen before. Its hull was midnight black, absorbing rather than reflecting light. Angular and predatory, it bore marking in an ancient script that made his blood run cold. HMS Harbinger. It can't be, whispered his second-in-command. The humans are extinct. We purged them ourselves. The mysterious vessel hung motionless in space, like a ghost from humanity's grave. Vexthor opened a channel, following protocol even as dread crept up his spine. Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately or face destruction. For long moments, there was only silence. Then a response came, not in words, but in action. The Harbinger's weapons powered up, energy readings spiking off the charts. But it didn't fire. Not yet. This was a demonstration, a warning. Sir, called out the communications officer. We're receiving a transmission. Text only. The message appeared on every screen throughout the station. We remember what you did. We survived. And we have proof. Before Vexthor could respond, the Harbinger unleashed a precise burst of energy, not at the station, but at a nearby automated defense platform. The shot pierced its shields like they didn't exist, splitting the platform in half with surgical precision. Launch interceptors. Vexthor ordered. But it was too late. The Harbinger vanished into slipspace, leaving behind only a data packet that began broadcasting on all frequencies. The packet contained footage that had been buried for centuries. Imperial ships glassing Earth. Civilian colonies being systematically exterminated. Children herded into death camps. The Empire's carefully maintained fiction of a necessary military action against an aggressive species crumbled in the face of raw, unedited truth. Aboard the Harbinger, Captain Marcus Sterling removed his neural interface helmet and let out a long breath. The bridge around him hummed with old but meticulously maintained Earth technology. No AI, nothing the Empire could hack or track. Just human ingenuity and determination. First contact successful, reported his tactical officer, Jackson Wade, a man whose cybernetic eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. The data packet is spreading faster than they can contain it. Already seeing chatter on their encrypted channels. Sterling nodded, his weathered face reflecting decades of planning, waiting, and preparing for this moment. Alert the other cells. Operation Phoenix is now active. In her quarters, Chief Engineer Kira Patel reviewed the sensor data from their demonstration. The weapon they'd used, a gravity lance reverse-engineered from studying the Empire's own tech, had performed perfectly. Just like we practiced, she muttered, allowing herself a grim smile. Deep in the ship's secure vault, Dr. Marcus Webb continued his work, surrounded by evidence collected over centuries. Videos, documents, testimonies, proof of the Empire's atrocities, preserved by the scattered remnants of humanity who had hidden in the darkness between stars, building their strength, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Harbinger wasn't alone. Across the galaxy, other human ships emerged from hiding. The Phoenix Protocol, centuries in the making, had begun. Humanity hadn't just survived, they had evolved, adapted, and prepared. The Empire had tried to write them out of history, but instead had created their own worst nightmare, a species with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. As the truth spread like wildfire across Imperial communications networks, the first cracks appeared in their perfect order. Questions arose. Doubts surfaced. And in the shadows, those who had helped hide the human survivors began to emerge, ready to stand against the empire that had nearly destroyed them all. The Harbinger disappeared into the void, but its message remained. Humanity had returned, and this time, they weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting to expose a truth that would shake the empire to its foundations. The imperial capital world of Zindrath Prime churned with unrest. In the towering spires of the Information Control Bureau, Director Zy Lex Vaughn watched as his carefully maintained system of censorship and propaganda crumbled. The human data packet had infected everything: civilian networks, military channels, even the sacred archives. "Purge it all," he ordered, his crystalline form pulsing with rage. "Every copy, every mention. I want it erased." But his subordinates had troubling news. "Sir, it's evolving. The data keeps reconstructing itself. Every time we delete it, it reappears in 2 new locations." In the lower levels of the capital, junior archivist Rectal slipped through crowded streets. Her species, the Varix, had always been loyal servants of the Empire. But what she'd seen in those human records had shattered her faith. The footage played in her mind. Imperial ships bombarding defenseless human colonies, using weapons that had been outlawed by galactic convention. She clutched a data crystal containing copies of the forbidden footage. Her contact was waiting in a forgotten maintenance tunnel, a member of an underground network that had apparently existed for centuries, helping preserve the truth about humanity's supposed extinction. The contact, a tall Nelvarian named Dex, emerged from the shadows. His species' natural ability to blend with darkness had served the resistance well. "You have it?" he whispered. "Everything," Rectal replied, "including proof that the Empire knew humans were peaceful. They attacked first, without provocation." Aboard the Harbinger, Captain Sterling received reports from sleeper cells across the galaxy. The Phoenix Protocol was working better than they'd hoped. Centuries of careful planning, of placing agents and evidence in crucial positions, were paying off. "Sir," Jackson Wade called out, "Imperial fleet movements are exactly as predicted. They're thinning their central defenses to hunt for us." Chief Engineer Patel looked up from her console. "They still think we're just one ship. One last remnant of humanity." She allowed herself a small smile. "They have no idea how many of us survived." In his private quarters, Sterling opened a secure channel to the other hidden human vessels. The faces that appeared on his screen represented humanity's greatest achievement, not just survival, but evolution. Each captain had been chosen and trained for this moment. "Phoenix Protocol Phase 2 is approved," Sterling announced. "Commence Operation Shatterpoint." Across Imperial space, carefully hidden human ships emerged from their sanctuaries. The HMS Defiant appeared in the Krell sector, liberating a prison world. The HMS Vindication revealed itself in the Dargovi lanes, disrupting the Empire's primary supply routes. Each ship carried proof of Imperial atrocities, broadcasting the truth to any who would listen. On Zindrath Prime, Director Zy Vaughn received increasingly desperate reports. The humans hadn't just preserved evidence, they'd spent centuries gathering more. Files detailing secret Imperial weapons programs. Testimony from retired officers who'd participated in the attempted genocide. Proof that the Empire had known other human colonies existed, but had covered up failed extermination attempts. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zel'Thas raged at his advisors. How did they survive? How did they hide for so long? A junior analyst, trembling, offered an answer. "The records suggest we might have helped them." The room fell silent. The analyst continued. "There are indications that various species within the Empire, disagreeing with the extinction order, secretly provided aid to human survivors. They created a network, hidden in plain sight, right under our control." The Emperor's guards had to restrain him from striking the analyst. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted in the highest levels of Imperial power. If some of their own had helped humans survive, how deep did this conspiracy go? Meanwhile, in the shadowy corners of Imperial society, more allies emerged. A Krell shipping magnate accidentally left supply caches for human ships. A Varix tech expert helped spread the forbidden footage through official channels. The Empire's perfect order was revealing its cracks, and through those cracks, the truth continued to spread. Dr. Webb's collection of evidence proved devastating. Not just records of the initial genocide, but proof of ongoing Imperial crimes against other species. Proof that the Empire's vaunted stability was built on systematic oppression and carefully crafted lies. The Harbinger continued its hit-and-run attacks, each one precisely calculated to expose another Imperial deception. They weren't just fighting with weapons, but with truth, a weapon the Empire had no defense against. In her workshop, Kira Patel put the finishing touches on their next weapon, a device that could crack Imperial encryption, revealing the private communications of their highest officials. Let them try to deny the truth, she muttered, when their own words condemned them. As Phase 2 of the Phoenix Protocol unfolded, humanity's message spread. We are not extinct. We are not defeated. We are your reckoning. And we bring with us a truth that will burn your empire to ashes. The Helios Maximum Security Facility hung in orbit around a dying star, its black crystalline walls absorbing the remnant radiation. For centuries, it had been the Empire's deepest secret, a prison housing thousands of discontinued beings. Those who knew too much. Those who asked dangerous questions. And, unknown to most, the largest collection of captured humans in Imperial space. Warden Krax watched the security feeds with growing unease. Something felt wrong. The facility's quantum detection grid had been flickering, showing microscopic anomalies that his technicians couldn't explain. Run another diagnostic, he ordered, his segmented exoskeleton clicking as he moved. In the void beyond the prison's sensors, 3 human vessels waited. The Harbinger, now joined by the HMS Stormbreaker and HMS Requiem, had spent weeks analyzing the facility's defenses. Captain Sterling stood at his command station, watching tactical displays that showed the prison's blind spots, gaps that had taken decades to identify. Team 1 in position, reported Commander Rosalie Winter from the Stormbreaker. Her ship, specially designed for stealth operations, had already deployed infiltration pods to the prison's maintenance airlocks. Team 2 ready, confirmed Captain Victor Reyes aboard the Requiem. His vessel carried the bulk of their liberation force, veterans of a war the Empire thought it had won centuries ago. Sterling checked the countdown timer. Remember, we're not just freeing our people. Every being in that prison has suffered under Imperial lies. They're all potential allies. He paused, then added, execute Operation Jailbreak. The attack began not with weapons, but with code. Kira Patel's latest creation, a virus that turned Imperial security systems against themselves, spread through Helios's networks. Blast doors sealed randomly. Security cameras showed loops of empty corridors. Guard communications filled with static. Inside the prison, chaos erupted. The infiltration teams, led by Jackson Wade, moved like ghosts through the confusion. Their armor, reverse-engineered from Imperial tech, rendered them nearly invisible to the facility sensors. Section 7 breached, Wade reported. First group of prisoners secured. You were right, Captain. There are survivors from the Europa colony here. The liberated prisoners told stories that confirmed their worst fears. The Empire hadn't just tried to exterminate humanity. They'd kept some alive for study, trying to understand how humans had resisted their control for so long before the Purge. Warden Krax finally realized the scale of the attack when the prison's power core began to fluctuate. This is impossible, he snarled. No one can breach Helios. But the evidence was before him. Security systems failing, cell blocks emptying, and most terrifying of all, the frozen human specimens in deep storage were waking up. Dr. Webb, monitoring from the Harbinger, analyzed the biological data streaming from the prison. Some of these humans have been in stasis for over 200 years. The Empire was studying our resistance to their psychic control methods. The liberation went smoothly until Section 12. Imperial elite guards, armed with experimental weapons, mounted a desperate defense. Energy beams carved through corridors, and for the first time, the human strike teams faced serious resistance. We need a diversion, Wade called out as his team took cover. They're boxing us in. Sterling had anticipated this. Requiem, you have permission to demonstrate our new toys. Captain Reyes grinned. About time. The Requiem's main cannon charged up, its hybrid human Imperial technology creating a unique energy signature. The blast didn't target the prison structure. Instead, it created a localized gravity well inside the facility, sending the elite guards floating helplessly in 0G. Move. Wade ordered, and his teams pushed forward, collecting prisoners of various species. Many were political dissidents, scientists who had questioned Imperial doctrine, or witnesses to other Imperial atrocities. Each one represented a crack in the Empire's facade of perfect order. In the deepest level of the prison, they found something unexpected, a hidden research lab. Dr. Webb's voice shook as he examined the data. They were trying to replicate human neural patterns, to understand why their mind control technology failed against us. The Empire had never admitted that their psychic control methods, which kept other species docile, had proven useless against humans. This discovery confirmed what the Resistance had long suspected: humanity's chaotic nature, which the Empire had used to justify genocide, was actually their greatest strength. As the last prisoners were evacuated, Sterling ordered the final phase. The Harbinger and its sister ships launched specialized warheads, not to destroy the facility, but to transmit everything they'd found directly into Imperial communication networks. Every experiment, every torture, every secret study would be exposed. Warden Krax, realizing his fate, tried to trigger the facility's self-destruct. But Patel's virus had locked him out. He could only watch as his prisoners escaped and his secrets were laid bare for the galaxy to see. The Liberation Fleet jumped to safety, their holds full of survivors and their databases full of evidence. But they weren't heading back into hiding. This was just the beginning. "All ships, report," Sterling commanded. "Stormbreaker here. All teams recovered. Minimal casualties. Over 3,000 prisoners liberated." Requiem reporting. New weapons systems performed above expectations. Imperial defenses couldn't adapt. The rescued humans were already telling their stories, how they'd survived in secret chambers deep within Imperial space, studied like lab specimens. Their testimony would add fuel to the fire of rebellion already spreading through the Empire. Sterling looked at the tactical display, showing Imperial fleet scrambling to respond to the prison break. "Send word to all cells," he ordered. "Phase 3 begins now." The Empire thought they could cage us, study us, understand us. Time to show them why that was their biggest mistake. The Imperial Council chamber on Zendrath Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from a dozen species argued as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Krell Trade Federation had publicly denounced the Empire's genocide. The Varric Science Academy demanded access to sealed records. 3 planetary governors had already declared independence. Emperor Zel'Thas watched his empire crumbling, powerless to stop it. "How many?" he asked his intelligence director. "How many systems have turned against us?" 17 confirmed rebellions, the director reported. "And our psychic control networks are failing. Something about the human broadcasts. They're disrupting the compliance frequencies." In the Meridian sector, the first major defection took place. Admiral Nix of the Imperial Third Fleet, a respected Scytheran commander, transmitted a simple message before turning her ships toward human space. "I was there. I saw the purge. I can't stay silent anymore." Aboard the Harbinger, Captain Sterling received the news with cautious optimism. "Admiral Nix's defection will inspire others," he told his crew. "But the Empire won't let their military fragment without a fight." He was right. Within hours, Imperial loyalists launched attacks on suspected rebel sympathizers. But they faced an unexpected problem. Their targeting systems were failing, their communications jammed. Centuries of studying Imperial technology had given humans the ability to disrupt it in ways the Empire never anticipated. Chief Engineer Patel had developed what she called chaos seeds, quantum devices that turn the Empire's own orderly systems against themselves. "They built everything on patterns," she explained to Dr. Webb as they watched another Imperial squadron descend into confusion. "But we humans? We thrive on breaking patterns." The revolution spread faster than anyone expected. On the mining world of Crax 6, enslaved Nexari workers overwhelmed their overseers. In the Hellion academies, students broadcast forbidden historical records. The Harbinger and its sister ships didn't need to attack anymore. They just needed to keep broadcasting the truth. Jackson Wade coordinated with their new allies, his cybernetic eyes processing tactical data from across the galaxy. "The Krell are offering their shipyards," he reported. "The Varrics are sharing research facilities. Even the Scytherans are beginning to question their loyalty to the Empire." But the most significant development came from an unexpected source. Deep within Imperial space, an ancient species long thought to be extinct emerged from hiding. The archivists of Zor, masters of knowledge who had withdrawn from galactic society millennia ago, sent a message to both humans and the Empire. "We have watched, we have recorded, and we have judged. The Empire's claim to maintain order is a lie. They bring only stagnation. Humanity, despite their apparent chaos, brings growth, evolution, the very force that drives the universe forward." The Empire tried to suppress this message, but it was too late. The archivists began releasing records spanning thousands of years, showing how the Empire had systematically suppressed any species that showed too much independence, too much creativity, too much humanity. Dr. Webb spent days analyzing the archivist data. It wasn't just us, he told Sterling. They tried to wipe out dozens of species before us. We're just the first ones who successfully fought back. On the imperial capital, the truth could no longer be contained. Citizens took to the streets, demanding answers. Why had they been lied to? How many other species had been discontinued for the crime of being different? The Empire's perfect order was revealed as perfect oppression. Commander Winter of the Stormbreaker reported successful contacts with resistance movements on 30 more worlds. They're not just fighting for us anymore, she said. They're fighting for themselves. For the right to be different. To evolve. Captain Reyes and the Requiem led a daring raid that exposed the Empire's biggest secret, the existence of massive compliance facilities where billions were subjected to psychic conditioning. The revelation sparked more defections, more rebellions. But the Empire wasn't finished. As their control slipped, they became more desperate, more dangerous. Imperial loyalists began arming superweapons, threatening to destroy entire systems rather than let them fall to the rebels. Sterling knew they had to act fast. All ships, prepare for Phase 4, he ordered. The Empire's trying to hold on to their power through fear. Time to show the galaxy that fear is no match for hope. The combined rebel fleet, human ships now joined by vessels from 24 species, gathered in the shadows of the Nexus Nebula. Each species brought unique strengths, Krell engineering, Varix science, Sithran tactics, and human unpredictability. As they prepared for their final push toward the Imperial capital, Sterling addressed the fleet. The Empire tried to destroy us because we represented something they couldn't control, change. Evolution. The power of free will. Now we're not just fighting for humanity's survival. We're fighting for the right of every species to choose their own path. The rebel fleet jumped to light speed, leaving behind the old order and heading toward an uncertain but free future. The Empire had wanted a galaxy of perfect order. Instead, they had created the perfect storm of rebellion, with humanity leading the charge toward a new age of liberation. The Imperial capital's defense grid had never been breached in 3,000 years of existence. Now, as the combined rebel fleet emerged from slipspace, those ancient defenses faced their greatest test. The sky above Zendrath Prime filled with ships of every species, human vessels flying alongside Krell dreadnoughts, Varix science ships, and Sithran battlecruisers. Captain Sterling stood on the Harbinger's bridge, watching the tactical display as hundreds of ships took position. All fleet commanders, report in. The responses came quickly. Admiral Nix's defected Imperial ships, Commander Winter's stealth squadron, Captain Reyes's strike force, and dozens of other commanders from various species. Each had their own reason to fight, their own story of Imperial oppression to avenge. But the Empire wouldn't fall easily. Emperor Zel'Thas had gathered his loyalist forces. Nearly half the Imperial fleet still stood with him. More troubling were the superweapons they'd activated, planet-killer satellites, psychic amplifiers, and worse. They're broadcasting something, Dr. Webb announced, studying his instruments. A new frequency, stronger than any compliance signal we've seen. Throughout the rebel fleet, non-human crews began to falter as the Empire's psychic control took hold. But humanity's gift, their natural resistance to such control, had spread to their allies through months of close contact and shared struggle. Push through it. Sterling commanded over the fleet channel. Remember why we fight. Remember what they took from you. Your freedom. Your history. Your right to choose. Chief Engineer Patel activated their secret weapon, the culmination of centuries of human innovation. Releasing the Liberation Protocol now, she reported. The Harbinger transmitted a counterfrequency, combining human brainwave patterns with the wisdom of the archivists. Where the Empire demanded submission, this signal awakened free will. The battle began in earnest. Imperial ships clashed with rebel forces in a firefight that lit up the sky. The Harbinger led a decisive push toward the capital's main defense platform, its hybrid weapons cutting through Imperial shields. Jackson Wade coordinated the ground assault teams. Resistance cells are rising up across the capital, he reported. The Empire's losing control of their own city. But Emperor Zel'Thas had one final card to play. If we cannot rule, his voice boomed across all frequencies, then none shall rule. Activate the purifier. Deep beneath the capital, a massive device began charging, one capable of sterilizing entire star systems. The Empire would rather destroy everything than lose control. All ships, clear the area, Sterling ordered. But retreat wasn't an option. If the purifier fired, billions would die, and the Empire's message would be clear: resistance means extinction. That's when the archivists made their final move. Ancient ships, hidden for millennia, emerged from subspace. Their technology, far beyond even the Empire's understanding, created a containment field around the capital. Captain, Patel called out, the archivists are transmitting a solution. If we reconfigure our chaos seeds to match their frequency. Sterling didn't hesitate. Do it. All ships with chaos seed technology, synchronized with Harbinger's signal. The plan was dangerous, using the Empire's own order-maintaining technology against their ultimate weapon. As the purifier reached critical power, the combined rebel fleet fired their reconfigured chaos seeds. The devices created a cascade of quantum disruptions, turning the purifier's energy back on itself. The resulting implosion was surgical. It destroyed the Imperial Palace and its weapons but left the civilian areas untouched. Emperor Zeldas and his inner circle vanished in a flash of light, consumed by their own desire for absolute control. In the aftermath, as rebel ships secured the capital, Sterling received a message from the archivist leader: the cycle is broken. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy can evolve naturally, without the Empire's artificial order. The victory brought not just liberation but revelation. In the Empire's sealed archives, they found the full truth. Humanity hadn't been targeted just for their resistance to control, but because they represented something the Empire feared most: the power of chaos to create positive change. 1 month later, representatives from every species gathered in the former Imperial Council chamber. But this wasn't about creating a new empire. Instead, they established the Galactic Concordat, an alliance dedicated to preserving freedom and diversity across the stars. Captain Sterling watched the proceedings from the Harbinger, now docked at the capital's main spaceport. Was it worth it? Commander Winter asked him. All those centuries of hiding, planning, waiting? Sterling looked at the crews working below, humans and aliens working together, each bringing their own strengths and perspectives. We didn't just survive, he said. We showed the galaxy a better way. Not perfect order, but perfect freedom. The human ships that had once hidden in darkness now patrolled openly, their crews teaching others what they learned about resistance, innovation, and the power of choosing one's own path. The Empire had tried to write humanity out of history. Instead, they had written the first chapter of a new story, one where difference was celebrated, not feared. As the Harbinger prepared for its next mission, Sterling gave one final order: release all the files. Everything we gathered, everything we learned. The truth isn't a weapon anymore. It's a foundation for the future. The age of the Empire was over. The age of freedom had begun. And humanity, once marked for extinction, had become not conquerors, but liberators, proving that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemy, but in transforming them into allies.